Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for today for an awesome look into the schools going green in the state of Florida. Now, I have the honor and pleasure as being the social responsibility chair and also assisting and supporting our environmental impact. I also have the honor and pleasure of introducing our fearless and tenacious leader, Miss Carolyn Nelson Goodard. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Good afternoon, everyone. How do I follow that and live up to that? But I'm going to give it a shot. I'm so glad to see you all here and to know that you care about not only the students, who we, of course, advocate for, but about the facilities in which they learn. I know that this team has put together a great presentation and that you're ready to get into it. But before we do that, allow me to introduce the members of our executive committee who are here with us today, as well as those members who are part of our board of directors. I see our secretary, Melanie Williams.
Good
Welcome.
afternoon, everyone, and thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. I also see, let's see, from our board of directors, and I'm going to go in the order that I see you. The love for all of you is the same. All right. So I see Kay Hawkins, who is the president of Duval County Council, PTA. Want to say hi, Kay?
Hi, everyone.
Thank you. Kelly Crumbaker, who is the president of Orange County PTA, Orange County Council, PTA.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Melanie Gamble, the president of Escambia County Council, PTA.
Good morning. Sorry. Good morning.
It's okay. It's still morning where Melanie is, that time difference within the state of Florida. Board members, who am I missing? We have lots of committee members, and I also see Kimberly Adamski, who is always here with us. Kimberly is our compliance director in the state office. Welcome, Kimberly.
Hi, everyone.
All right. And I know we do have some subcommittee chairs here who are part of the Social Responsibility Committee. And that would be Nicholas Nelson Goddard. And of course,
hello, everyone.
Sorry, today's presenter, Michelle Drucker. And forgive me, chalk it up to the head, not the heart, if I missed anyone. Thanks again for being here, and I send it back over to you, Crystal.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. And I do not want to miss our social responsibility co-chair as well, Kimberly McDonald.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Yes, ma'am. It's so many of us doing the good work out here. So we will waste no further of your time, and I will turn this over to the lovely Michelle Drucker. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It's great to see you on this call today, and that you're interested and curious how to help your school get its Florida Green School designation. I'm going to walk you through about 20 minutes of this presentation. Then I will bring you all to the webpage for the Florida Department of Environmental Protection Green Schools page, and hopefully you guys will be inspired to take action in your own communities. Quick shout out actually to Duval County and Orange County. Orange has an amazing resiliency team in Orlando, and Duval has an incredible facilities officer who really inspired the Green Champions movement down here in Miami. She saved $100 million in 5 years over the course of just energy efficiency programs. So the work that the facilities did up in the Duval schools is just really remarkable. So without further ado, this is Florida Green Schools, brought to you by the Florida PTA. The mission is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. So when we think about what's children learn in the school setting, we think about teachers delivering curriculum in the classroom. But everything about the school day is a learning opportunity for these students. And what we have found is when you ask kids about what they understand about climate or environmental stewardship, they definitely see a gap between what they're learning in the classroom about best practices and how their schools operate. They just don't look the way they should in terms of recycling availability or energy efficiency, cold classrooms, idling buses, cafeteria food waste, and they want to close that gap. So you will get excited, engaged students that want to green their school if you offer this program. Okay, so first thing, let me tab. Why green schools? Well, green schools provide better learning outcomes. When you reduce idling, it can improve learning outcomes by as much as 7% in English standardized testing. Healthier school environments, improved air quality, biking and walking promotion is really healthy for kids. When you have gardens in your school site, kids are more likely to try vegetables from their school garden. Green career energy pathways. In Florida alone, solar is an $18 billion a year industry, and providing those STEM learning opportunities is a great way to show students that there are pathways in green energy. More resilient schools. Schools are often hurricane shelters. So if you have solar with a battery backup, especially with the electric buses that are coming, their batteries are the size of multiple power walls. If you've heard of those, the Tesla power walls that can power a house. Those buses with solar could keep a school going. There was a Titusville school that actually used solar to power one of their classrooms after Hurricane Irma, a small solar facility. Money savings. In Arkansas, they put up 1,400 solar panels on schools and turned a $250,000 deficit into a $1.8 million surplus, and teachers got big raises. So, better learning outcomes, healthier learning environments for everyone, students, staff, and even bus drivers. The drivers that are idling, they can have COPD towards the end of their careers, and it'll save money. Why else? School operations are the second biggest expense after teacher salaries. In Florida, we spend $100 million each year on electricity, and FP&L, for those of you who are already feeling that hit, their rates are going up 21%, and they got that rate approved before we had the war in Ukraine and oil prices went all over the place. So there's more rate hikes are coming, so that's going to be another expense for schools. And for the first time ever, under the Inflation Reduction Act, schools can now get a 30% rebate from the federal government by installing solar. So truly, there's never been a better time to consider solar on your schools. Miami-Dade, the data I have, Miami-Dade drives 12 million diesel miles every year. So if you go electric, you'll save on that diesel cost and maintenance. And in Miami, we use 45 million plastic sporks and serve 45 million meals. So the potential is really there to reduce our carbon footprint and environmental impacts. Schools waste $5 million a day in uneaten food. And this is a picture of our school where this is the food the kids don't eat. Unfortunately, that's pretty common in the school setting. So how do you get started? If you want to reduce those environmental impacts and cost, you can start anytime. Right now, we have 45 green schools as of January 2023. The program started in 2017, and I have been working with our local school in Miami since that time. So we have a lot of real-world outcomes and experiences on sort of like the do's and don'ts, best practices that we're happy to answer any questions for you. The application is pretty simple. It's only 4 pages. You start with the 101 basics about your school, and when I finish the presentation, I'll bring you guys directly to the Florida DEP website. So it's very simple to start, just where are you located, private, public, and private schools, charter schools can do this as well. Even universities, there's no restriction on what kind of school can get their designation. The real key is get to know your zone mechanic. So the zone mechanic is a little different than the custodian. These are the folks that I got to know as we started this process, the zone mechanic will often oversee 2-3 schools and come to your school maybe once or twice a week. And he's the person, or she is the person, that would change out maybe the lights to LED lighting, or if there's a broken, plumbing fixture, they will take care of that piece of it. And they're really critical, as well as the custodian staff. They're critical for this process. The application will ask upfront, what are your utility costs? And the principal should always have that information, maybe not immediately, but they can get that from the facilities at the district level. So the real key is you want to have a green team. You need to have a green champion hero in your school that's willing to kind of take the reins and just walk the administration, teachers, parents. This is why we try to leverage PTAs into completing the application. It's not that burdensome. It's not effortless, but it's not impossible either. So I just want you all not to be too intimidated if you're thinking of taking on this process. And pretty much every school has someone that is interested in this process. I mean, parents do really care about schools being clean and litter free and having these learning opportunities for their kids. And you can often get someone, particularly from the PTA, or I'm assuming there's ESAC across the whole state. We have them. It's like an education advisory committee. I believe that they're in every school. Someone from the ESAC committee might also be willing to help with this. And the reason why we look towards PTAs is the zone mechanic is there when something, he can't be proactive. He tends to be reactive, or she would be reactive. Like there's a broken pipe, they've got to scramble to fix it. But if there's a slow drip happening somewhere, no one's really paying attention to that. But if you do this application and you are proactive and you have a team, then you can make these changes and take measures to save money for your school. If you become a Florida Green School, after you get buy-in from top management, the administration, because the principal does need to sign off on the application, you would be eligible to be considered a U.S. Department of Education Green Ribbon School. And I find that is a very appealing hook for principals. I mean, being a Florida Green School is a great designation in and of itself. But if you want to aspire to the next level, the only way you can become a U.S. Department of Education Green Ribbon School is first being designated Florida Green Apple, and then they invite you to apply to be a U.S. Department of Education Green Ribbon School. So here are our students, our principal, the gentleman all the way to the right was the number 2 at the U.S. Department of Education. And I'm going to digress for 1 second here. We were the only school to bring students up to this event. And we were really proud of that because we feel the students were super key in helping us with this process. And the gentleman all the way to the right told the story about how environmental stewardship is such an important message to communicate to students, and they're inheriting this world, and we all understand the sort of environmental crises that we're facing so much more frequently these days. And he started to talk about how he was a school teacher in Florida, and particularly at Jensen Beach Elementary, and that those students would go out on the Indian River Lagoon. It's the most biodiverse waterway in Florida, in Martin County, and they would pick up sea creatures, and they created an entire generation of environmental stewards. Well, that was my elementary school. So when he started talking, the tears were just streaming down my face, and I was like, that's exactly right. That's exactly why I do this. So that was a really nice moment for us. But anyway, I digress. But the U.S. Department of Education recognition is definitely a feather in the cap of any school that secures that. Okay, so the next step, you evaluate your environmental performance and you look for areas of continuous improvement. And what is nice about the Florida Green Schools application, it is not one and done. You get the designation and then you have to reapply every 3 years. and you can seek higher designation. I like to think of it as LEED certification, but like baby LEED certification, which is what buildings can get from the U.S. Green Building Council. And you have different levels of bronze, silver, and gold. And if you're looking for any more buy-in or way to get your PTA involved, let them know. This is a priority from Florida, that we passed a resolution in July of last year. So you can always provide that resolution information to your PTA to say, this is, this is right in our lane. This is exactly the kind of project and effort that we should be engaging in. This is not sort of this outlier PTA effort. So just that's another way to kind of come in strong and be able to have that support to propose this certification. Okay, so here are the categories. There's 6 categories. You only need to satisfy 50% per category to meet the threshold designation. So one of them is communication and education, waste reduction, which can include recycling, compost, plastic waste reduction, water conservation, energy efficiency, and here we have an image of our zone mechanic staff changing out the bulbs to LED bulbs. Air quality, which usually is about like making sure the air filters are changed and they're high efficiency HEPA filters. I know there's a lot of refocus on that because of all the ESSER funds and the COVID air quality that was an issue. But it also can include no idling policies and getting electric buses, transportation. And here is the actual application. So you can see this page 1, and like I said, I can bring us to the Florida DEP website afterwards so you can see the application a little more clearly. But these are all photos from the different schools. I just wanted to also mention that the photos that you see throughout this PowerPoint, 90% of them are actual photos taken in the school setting. So the communications, you can see here's only 5 questions, and they ask, do you communicate these initiatives to students, parents, and staff? Well, one way we did that at our school is we included this effort in the PTA newsletter. We let people know, that parents and stakeholders know that we're trying to get this certification. We created a WhatsApp chat, which is a really effective way to get engaged team members to say, hey, we need help with the recycling today, or can you be there for the pickup? And also just making announcements at the beginning of staff meetings to let teachers know that these initiatives are starting. Establish an environmental task force. So one of the things we did in our PTA is we created an environmental committee, just like Florida PTA has done this year. To my understanding, it's the first year that you've carved out this designation to try to help schools get their green certification. Okay, so the next one, waste reduction. You can see in the questions it asks, do you recycle these items? Most schools have paper and cardboard recycling only. We had to pay for a separate vendor contract for cans and bottles, and now we're actually started composting in the back kitchen where there's better quality control in terms of composting. The bottom photo is from our culinary class where, we collect just these fruits, vegetables, coffee grinds, eggshells. Those are the types of things that can be composted in what you call backyard composting. The industrialized composting can handle things like meat, fat, bones, chicken, but we don't have those facilities in South Florida. I believe Orlando has one. Mostly because of Disney, because Disney has this food digester that they turn all of their park waste into biofuel, and they reduce all the methane, because that's a really important part of reducing emissions. Okay, next. Water conservation. I'm going to be really honest here. The water conservation is the trickiest piece to satisfy. Every other aspect of this application is achievable for sure. The water conservation requires that 50% of your bathroom facilities, your sinks, your toilets, your showers, if you have a gym, need to be low flow. That's one of the ways to satisfy water conservation. We were lucky at our school that we had a new building, so half of those fixtures were already low flow. But the key here is, again, talk to your zone mechanic, talk to your principal, ask, hey, we maybe put an aerator attachment on our sinks so we can satisfy the lower flow volume required for this piece of it. A lot of cities, like in Miami, their Miami-Dade Water and Sewer provides rebates when you swap out less efficient models of toilets or sinks. So that's another avenue. That piece, I would actually recommend you assess what you have and maybe leave it for last, because you don't want to get frustrated or shut down if you struggle too much with the water conservation. Florida-friendly landscape, that's another way to satisfy it. That is less water intensive plants that are native and they don't need an irrigation system. You can see the next piece, energy efficiency, where again, they ask tracking your energy usage, same with water usage. And these are actually fundamental questions you need on that second page of the application. You need to know where you are to know where you're going. So you need to have that baseline information. So here we have our students, they put some solar panels up on a guard shack. And in this upper photo, we had Lutron Electronics come in and teach kids about LED and why it's so important. Just a little side note, LED is such a revolution in energy efficiency, not just because those lights use so much less electricity, but because they generate almost no heat. So they use less electricity, but the biggest cost in your electric bill is your air conditioner. 40% of your your electric bill is AC. So if the AC is fighting with hot lights, then you're raising your bill. So that's one of the reasons why when you install LED, not only do they last a lot longer than fluorescents, they generate a lot less heat and they use less energy and they require less AC output. Okay, so for instance, this energy efficiency continued. Do you support green power? I mean, we just had a little solar panel where kids could plug in and charge their phones. So you don't have to have a mega solar installation in order to achieve this, but you can just showcase it somewhere at the school so kids can see, oh, this is what a solar panel looks like. All right, next piece, air quality and transportation. That can be satisfied by just making sure that the cleaning products are environmentally preferable cleaners. And you can usually look directly at the bottom and you can see, are they certified, company to be green cleaning products? You can also send your inquiry directly to Sheena Chin Green, who runs the Florida Green Schools program through the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and she will answer your questions as well. Here we have the one that I think is pretty easy to satisfy is school grounds are 100% smoke free. So that one we could answer yes to without much effort. That was, an easy one, especially in the elementary schools. Okay, so transportation. Do you promote, there's always a bike or walk to school day. Most school districts promote that and they have a declaration or a resolution. So if you promote that, that's a positive thing. Do you have a bike rack? Here's our bike rack, which we actually had it installed a little bit outside of the school grounds by the city of Miami. So if the school doesn't, there's always ways around, I think, to satisfy some of these criteria. And so we got the city of Miami to put that in for us. So here's this electric vehicle charging option. What we did to offer that at our school was if there was a plug, just a regular 110 outlet plug in the garage, and we bought it was a $300 charger, and we installed it. And so when you had an electric car, when you plugging into a 110 outlet is plenty of charge for 8 hours. Most people don't drive more than 20 to 30 miles for their average commute. So if you have just a 110 outlet and you can offer that, it's minimal electricity cost to the school. We have this little decal where you pay $50 for the year and you can plug in anytime. So that's another way to get electric vehicle charging at your school. So here's the recognition that our school in Miami got. You become a Green Apple school first. You meet that threshold designation, and then you can go back and add more environmental initiatives at your school and gain points. It's a point system. And we became a Gold Apple school, and I have to say in all candor, I was kind of surprised because I didn't think we had enough points in the tiered designation application, but because we have so many other initiatives, like we have a garden, and a garden is not included on the application, but Sheena said, look, if you think I should add gardens, you tell me, I will modify that application. She is totally receptive to working with schools and knowing what actually happens. If you have a plastic reductions campaign, bring your water bottle to school. Hey, you can get points for that too. So that's how we got up to that next Gold Apple threshold. And I have to say, they had a ceremony last week at Mast Academy, and she came down and recognized the school, and she said other states are asking her, like, what are you doing? This is so great. Like, how do we replicate this? So I just want to let you know, this is getting respect really not just across Florida, but across the state. Here's the other little piece of trivia that is very meaningful that can also help motivate and get people excited about becoming a Florida Green school. There's $5 billion available right now for green electric school buses. So that's a lot of money. So if your school district has not applied for that money, I would urge them, go get that money. And in fact, some rural districts in Florida were awarded some electric school buses because the federal government is trying to make this equitable and make sure that rural areas also get access to the electric buses. And this is our student, Holly Thorpe, who went to the school board and advocated for electric school buses and let them know there is money out there to get these buses. And they committed, they applied for 50 buses, and we should be getting 10 this year out of 1,000. So there's a lot of buses to replace. The other thing, there's $250 million for green career training that can be sought after, and $500 million for energy retrofits. And as I mentioned before, there's a 30% rebate for solar installation on schools and your own home. So if you're thinking about going solar, there's never been a better time. What was different about the federal law that hasn't existed in the past is it was a tax credit, and tax exempt institutions like schools or churches wouldn't be able to take advantage of it. So they modified the law so that schools would be able to take advantage. And what's so great about the school setting is they have these big flat roofs with daytime energy needs. Kids can see this technology in real time on their school setting. Most of these districts are self-insured. So you'll hear a lot of chatter like, oh, but hurricanes and the solar panels, blah, blah, blah. I've had solar panels on my roof in Miami for 7 years, and it's fine. I mean, they're rated for hurricanes. So that's just another thing to, know in the back of your mind. There's federal money out there. It's a win-win all around to go solar. So I just have a few slides here to kind of express why why I got involved in this. And I think for me, being growing up in Florida, a lifelong Floridian, 3 kids, growing up on the Indian River Lagoon, these headlines are really stressful, and it's hard. It's hard to know like that this is what our kids are facing. And I am the kind of person that I'm very proactive and I want to be part of the solution. This is the Indian River Lagoon where I grew up. So you can see it's just such a beautiful place. And on the right is my friend's son. She is a coastal flood risk consultant professor at FAU. And this is the amount of sea level rise that her son is going to likely experienced in his lifetime. She had him stand in the water. So that's, I think, about 5 feet or so. And here's my last. Oh, the other thing, sustainability is everywhere. Like the triple bottom line, people, planet, prosperity. Disney has been carbon neutral since I think 2012. Walmart has Project Gigaton. NFL has their green initiative. And these are the top 10 solutions that we have right now. We don't need like crazy technology in order to start making these changes. And this is a really interesting deep dive if you want to learn more about the top 10 solutions. And believe it or not, reduced food waste and plant-rich diet, number 3 and 4, that would have a bigger impact on reducing our emissions than rooftop solar, electric cars, electric buses, composting, recycling combined. So reduced food waste is actually like when you go to the store and maybe you freeze the things you don't eat, it's throwing out our food, not so much the composting. That's what reduced food waste is. This is what we were able to mobilize here in Miami and get our school board to commit to 100% clean energy by 2030. 2030 is the year that the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says we must reduce overall emissions 50% in order to stabilize the climate. So that's why we made 2030 the goal. And this is the last video.
As a scientist, I know by the time she takes her first breath, 9 billion more tons of carbon pollution will be in the air. When she takes her first steps, wildfires will have burned millions more acres she could have explored. The day she gets her first pet, there are thousands of newly extinct species she'll never meet. Of her first heartbreak, her future home floods for the first of many times. By the time a child born today goes to college, it may be too late to leave them the world we promised. Our window to act on climate change is like watching them grow up. We blink and we miss it.
All right, so that is it for the presentation. I'm going to answer some questions if you guys have them, or if you prefer, I can take you directly to the Florida DEP website. But since we're already at 12:37, I thought I would field some questions if you have any first. Go ahead, Kay.
Well, you were talking about Duval County. Yes, we have Beaches Go Green here. Anna Marie Mueller is the one who has that. She and I met with the principal at Fletcher Middle School. We had water filling stations put in the school, and she got water bottles donated so that the students could have refillable bottles for their gym athletic things that they did. I also had her come speak at our county council meeting. So a lot of our schools here jumped on board with Anne, and it's really going good here with that program.
That's great. Yeah, a lot of schools got water bottle fillers because of COVID. I know that we added a whole bunch in Miami, and it was great. Like all this jumping up and down about how we want bottle fillers to get rid of plastic really wasn't the catalyst. It was, oh, there's money. We don't want kids drinking from fountains because we want to limit COVID spread. And that's great. You would definitely get points on a Florida Green Schools application for that. And what I like about the Florida Green Schools designation is it really takes a whole look at what's happening with school operations, not just those little pieces, but that's a great initiative. Someone asked, the video is from Science Moms, and they are scientists that are raising the alarm about the urgency of action. And they have some really playful videos, really cute, like we need to use our outdoor voice indoor in order to really raise the alarm about the fact that we need to move on this. And unfortunately, information and data, it isn't enough to change people's behaviors and habits. And that's why we wanted to have a real hands-on opportunity for students to get involved, because when people are engaged in something like recycling or bringing their own bottle or reducing plastic in their lunch, then they start to really internalize the best practices and habits. And that is super critical to changing behaviors. Mary.
Yes, good afternoon. I want to thank you for this very informative session today. Is this something that maybe we could bring to our county councils, our city councils, and as to get them involved in this also? How do we go about if we need to get with you for further information once we put that together, if our council?
Sure, Mary. I'm happy to connect with you anytime. I think for me, I wanted to focus on schools because kids will go and make statements in cities or counties, and we'll get these resolutions and these declarations, which sounds great, but what we really want is to see the operations changing. So, I think that I always feel like kids get more credibility of walking the walk, especially PTAs, because teachers, you can't ask teachers to do this. You can't ask them to change school operations. And if a PTA says, look, I'll walk you guys through the application, that's a great start. So for sure, I know in Key Biscayne, the mayor is going to promote the green schools and ask our kids to be ambassadors to go to other schools and encourage those schools to get their green school designation. So the hope is to kind of leverage the PTA because parents are willing to do things, but they just don't know what to do. And if you give them direction, then they'll often do it. So Kim McDonough, landscaping include artificial turf. Actually, artificial turf is not recommended because it gets really hot. And that's problematic, especially with extreme heat issues becoming more, more prevalent and happening more often. In fact, one of the things that we probably should consider doing is giving a link to the 100% Clean Energy Task Force report, where those recommendations were all made. And in fact, honestly, I would urge all of your PTAs, go to your school board and say, they did this in Miami. Why can't we follow this model, right? We had 30 task force members that were subject matter experts, solar installers, land use attorneys, architects, lead building certification experts. We had about 10 people from the school setting, like the transportation, facilities, the electricians. So the buy-in, it took 6 months to pull together this task force report on how we could get to these goals and how much money we would save if we actually implemented them. We have the grassroots stuff does happen across schools, but it's kind of hit or miss. And if you can combine the grassroots efforts with what I call the grass tops and get your district to buy in, then you'll see, I think, more movement. Because I can tell you, Alberto Carvalho, very charismatic superintendent for many, many years in Miami, he made this bold proclamation in 2012, let's become a carbon neutral school district. And fast forward to 2017, when I started getting involved in my kids' school, which is a marine stewardship themed school on Biscayne Bay, we didn't even have recycling. And I was like, oh, there's a disconnect here. So I would say taking that PTA resolution that we've already made a Florida commitment, and there are national PTA commitments as well that are kind of similar. Just bring that with you. You have everything you need to make the ask. And I am happy to talk with anybody anytime, walk you through the application, or give you the talking points to talk to your PTA, your principal, your school board members.
Thank you.
We're excited.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Michelle.
No, I'm just, Nicholas has a meatless Fridays. Yes, that you could definitely write that in, meatless Fridays. And it's not technically part of the application for the Green Apple sort of threshold, but if you want to talk to Sheena Chin Green, she is totally open and she gets it. Like, she knows her stuff. She's really awesome. Okay. Any other questions?
Rutherford. I'm out of Tampa, Florida. And we've just gotten buy-in from our PTA, so we're excited to try and start this process. Me and my counterpart Sarah, who's coming on this evening. But I remember earlier you had referenced that the schools were insurance individually. You're talking about their solar and their big flat roofs. You referenced the fact that that each school has, is it individual insurance, or what was the term that you used?
So I know for Miami-Dade schools, they are self-insured for,
Okay.
you know, maybe this small, I would think Tampa is the same way. I'm mentioning it because, and actually kind of segueing back to what Mary asked about how do you get your cities and communities engaged with this. Miami-Dade County has a 100% clean energy commitment as well. And they are the #1 consumer of electricity in Miami, and the school district is the #4 consumer. And they said, well, let's leverage our buying power together to get these solar panels and put them on these public facilities that use public tax dollars. And I will tell you, that's the same year that FPNL was like, oh, we can't have net metering, which is like a solar, it's a benefit for solar owners. But the good news is everything's already in place to make that happen. So, economies of scale help bring down the cost. The more solar panels you buy for multiple schools, the lower the cost purchasing them.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. I'm just starting, but I'm excited to see everything in one place. You made it very easy to understand, so thank you.
Awesome. Let me, I'm going to just show you guys also. Let me go back to the screen. Science moms. How do I had, let me get out of this. Here it is. So here is the Florida Green Schools. Just go to floridadep.gov and it provides you a lot of information. It shows you the 6 areas that you need to commit to reducing environmental impacts. And this right here, oops. And this is the actual application. So you can see it is definitely achievable. I would tell yourself as a PTA, hey, let's get this done 3 or 4 months. You could knock it out if you have everything in a week, but it's about really the process and getting to know your school and getting to see the strengths and weaknesses. So this is where you would go. And that's it. I mean, it's a pretty quick application. Is the right school level the school level, or should we tie? Do it at the school level. You can become a green school, school by school. And I'll tell you the reason why I think that's important is because I have heard so many stories of even people in facilities. Oh, I started the first recycling program 25 years ago in my school. And I think, well, that's actually not a good story, because where are we today with recycling in schools? And the more schools we have under this umbrella and this network, the more of a collective voice we have to saying, hey, we want to see more being done. So Miami just did an intent to negotiate to put solar on 9 schools out of 350, right? It's only 9. It's small, but I think it's really critical to have that designation at the school level, because it shows that everyone's walking the walk. And like I mentioned, just knowing what needs to be done is not the same thing as engaging in the practices, which really help people to internalize better practices. Any other questions? So I guess my ask for all of you is to maybe you can send me an email or send it to Crystal. See if you can find one school that would be interested in getting this designation. And I promise that I will get on a Zoom call with any of you anytime. We can make it work, and just try to see if you can get one school to become Green Apple in time for Earth Day, which is April 21st. That would be my ask from everyone on this call, including Mary. Mary, what school can we tackle in Miami?
Dot Lake.
What is it?
No, that's the school that I would be interested in working with, because I know the principal there, and she's very open to, doing innovative things and stuff. So that was
Awesome.
one.
Yeah, and I will tell you, for instance, in Miami, the superintendent's making a big push for technical schools, and green careers are solid, good paying careers. An EV, an electric vehicle mechanic, a solar installer. Even there's a lot of discussion about how we have so many natural solutions, like mangroves are what we call blue carbon sinks, and they absorb 6 times more carbon than your regular tree. And they're so important for coastal, to prevent coastal erosion. That first photo on my PowerPoint, the kids doing planting native plants in that coastal area. It was the only part of Virginia Key that didn't erode during Hurricane Irma because they were native plants. So like trees are a big part of the solution. I mean, they're good for so many reasons. Just the shade, they reduce the heat islands. Actually, they find that trees reduce crime in areas. They're like therapeutic for people. Same with gardens. Gardens are really good for kids too.
So we are definitely excited. It is 12:50. We are excited that you're excited. We are a dedicated committee. Thanks to Madam President for putting us together. Under social responsibility is the phenomenal DEIJ, which you guys know that is center of my heart. Environmental impact, and also community service. So it is definitely work happening with the social responsibility under Florida PTA guidance and leadership. And we're excited to share this. This is just a part of it. But we would like to take a moment to celebrate our new schools who became Green Apple in the state of Florida. And that's Oak Ridge High, Jupiter Elementary, Arbor Ridge K-8, Palmer Trinity School, and the Sanibel School. So we're very excited and know that this is happening, guys. This is really happening. We look forward to adding more schools. And also, before we go and wrap up, just know that we are champions. We are champions for everything that we do. And that includes our environmental impact. So we have started under the social responsibility, our champions, and we are all champions. So you can reach out to any one of us or send an email to the social responsibility. And if someone is specifically in your county, then we would link you to that individual so that we can continue the great work. Okay. Thank you so much for the time. And I now turn it back over to the hands of our Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Michelle, you didn't disappoint. You always come through with great information and opportunities for us to do better and be better as a society. So I want to very quickly share a couple of upcoming events for you and opportunities for you to take a deeper dive, not only into the mission of PTA, but into networking and broadening your horizons within our organization. So registration is open for our legislative conference, which will take place March 26th through 28th in Tallahassee, Florida. I hope to see everybody that's on this call. I'm writing down all your names in Tallahassee very soon, because I know that you are staunch advocates for our children. Also coming up is our centennial celebration, which will begin on April 14th at the state office with an open house and a family night with pizza and a movie and face painting and a tour of the office if you've never been there. And conclude on Saturday, April 15th. Did I say 15th before? Starting on Friday, April 14th, and concluding on Saturday, April 15th, with a luncheon at the Second Harvest Food Bank, where we will have student performers. We'll have some of our past presidents. We'll have videos. We'll have a little bit of history to share with you. We'll have time for networking and time to celebrate us and us being around for 100 years. We also have open our workshops for Leadership Convention. Go ahead, now is the time to register for those. If you have a workshop, hint, hint, Michelle, that you would like to share with everyone this summer at Leadership Convention, please make sure you fill out the workshop presenter application. Save the date for May 6th, when we will be in Orlando, Florida for our first face-to-face reflection celebration, where we have an opportunity to actually celebrate our children and their artistic talents. Not necessarily drawing. Artistic means whatever way they express themselves. It could be literature, it could be photography, it could be videography, choreography, and all of the categories that fall within reflections. So save the date of May 6th. If you have any questions about any of that good stuff I just mentioned, please visit the Florida PTA website, where you can find not only what I shared, but additional information. Thank you again for being here. I know that I'll see some of you this evening, but spread the word. This is good information and good to pass along. Thanks, Crystal. And thank you to our Environmental Impact Committee for bringing this to us.
Thank you. So no one wants to go?
They like